to the video we've been showing you this morning. Russian military vehicles as they move down a road in the northern part of Kiev, and this was shot through a window. One of the vehicles moves to cut off traffic. We're going to repeat this for you because it is just a short piece of tape, but this is video that's being widely shared on social media. We're taking it from an official account. BBC News is verifying it, confirming the location. There is other unconfirmed video of Russian forces in other parts of Kiev, and we're not showing that to you until every bit of it is verified. And I use that as an illustration because we know what is happening, how you have to be very careful given the challenges of Russian propaganda, mis and disinformation. And media outlets are certainly not the only people who are facing those challenges. Katie Nicholson is with me this morning. Katie's been speaking to people who are doing open source intelligence, investigators who are working to debunk Russian propaganda in real time. And that must be, Katie, a real challenge.
You know, they really are feeling overwhelmed right now with the sheer volume of material coming their way. There's a number of ways that they're trying to do this. So first of all, geolocation. They're looking for landmarks to try and verify that a video was taken, in fact, where it was said it was taken. The other thing they're doing is they're looking at metadata as well. So that's that sort of hidden information that's stored in a file of a video or an image. But sometimes these attempts at disinformation, and there are a lot of them, are just really amateurish. I'm going to show you an example. This one was debunked a few days ago when our friends at Bellingcat pointed it out to us. It shows you a man who was alleged to have his leg essentially blown off in Ukrainian versus Russian shelling. Well, upon closer look, it reveals that he had a prosthetic leg. Here's a little look at that.
Нихуя себе! Ебать! Вот пидорасы, блядь! Сука, твари! Ты снимай, блядь!
And it is designed to stir up anger and sentiment. There's a lot of this floating around and a lot of very dramatic and distressing images. And for Giancarlo Fiorella, who is with Bellingcat, he's one of the open source investigators. He says it's just been absolutely overwhelming. Here's Giancarlo.
So what I would say is the real challenge when it comes to Russian disinformation, at least what we've seen for the invasion of Ukraine now, is the volume of it, just the sheer quantity of events that they're flooding social media with. And so the challenge there isn't to necessarily debunk these individual pieces of propaganda because they're technically difficult to debunk. It's just like there's so much of it.
So what Bellingcat has decided to do is really triage all of this. So rather than just focus on debunking images, they're trying to work to verify images that show humanitarian concerns. So shelling of homes, shelling of hospitals. And they're really trying to create a record so that there is some veracity in what we're seeing, so that people know what images they can believe. And so ultimately, there is a record should there be human rights trials or violations put to trial down the road for this incursion.
What is the purpose, Katie, of flooding these social media channels with all of this false and misleading information?
You know, there are a lot of different purposes and a lot of different audiences in mind. One of the things it does is it sows chaos, so people don't know what to believe. The other thing it can do is it can try to bring people on side. You know, Putin is really trying to convince Russia that this was a good move. This is something they should do. So trying to speak to a Russian audience and say that Ukraine is aggressive in some of these videos. And, you know, this is an old tactic. Here's Professor Wesley Wark.
The idea is in part to see if there's some part of the population that you can win over to your cause. And of course, the Russians are hoping that Russian speakers in the eastern part of Ukraine might be convinced by some of this propaganda campaign. And for the rest, a desire just to destabilize, throw confusion, throw fear and panic into the hearts of Ukrainians across the land. And then there's an international audience for these kinds of propaganda, disinformation campaigns. And the idea is there to win as many friends and supporters as you can.
You know, there are hundreds of open source intelligence investigators working on Ukraine right now. We'll bring you some more of their stories later on today.
Katie, thank you very much. Katie Nicholson with that part of the story in Toronto.